Peace to the 12. Y'all see the title, man. The father of Egyptology said that the ancient Egyptians were black. I'm going to say that one more time. The father of Egyptology said that the ancient Egyptians were black. And I've already talked about this before in previous videos. I'm really just going to isolate this part. Then I'm going to show you guys some pharaohs. I'm going to show you what he said in this book. This guy, by the way, is known by the name of Jean-Francois Champollion. And they call him the father of Egyptology. And yes, he did say that the ancient Egyptians were so-called black people. And I'm also going to go into why they hide that fact. And at the end, I'm going to show you guys what his brother also said. Now, his brother was a scoffer. His brother did not agree with him. But his brother said something that's very interesting, where he's going to basically say that everybody thought that the ancient Egyptians were black all the way up to the time of the Renaissance. But we'll get to that when we get to that. So anyway, this guy is a French classical scholar by the name of Jean-Francois Champollion, right? He was born in 1790 and he perished in 1832. He's a French historian and linguist. He founded scientific Egyptology and deciphered hieroglyphs with the Rosetta Stone. So he founded scientific Egyptology, right? And he is known as the father of Egyptology. Jean-Francois Champollion is called the father of Egyptology. Using the Rosetta Stone, he was able to decipher the ancient Egyptian language. Jean-Francois Champollion was born to a bookseller in the town of Figeac, France on 23rd of December 1790. He was a child genius who wasn't fond of traditional schooling. Yeah, neither am I. I'm not fond of so-called traditional schooling. But nonetheless, let's go to what he wrote in this book right here. Latrice. It writes the Egypt et de Nubie in 1828 through 1829, right? It's written in France, but guess what? I Google translated it, so don't worry. So this translates to letters written of Egypt and Nubia in 1828 and 1829 by Champollion, the Young, New Edition, right? Now this is very funny. Now once again, it's all written in France, but I Google translated it for you guys. So what this blue part says, it says, Appendix Summary, Notice on the History of Egypt, written in Alexandria for the Viceroy and delivered to His Highness in November 1829. Right? Now, we're going to go to this part, all this part right here, and we're going to translate it. Right? From French to English. This is very interesting what he's about to say. He's about to tell you guys that the original Egyptians were so-called black people. So let's go into this. The first tribes who populated Egypt, right? The first tribes who populated Egypt, that is to say, the valley of the Nile between the cataract of Aswan and the sea, came from Abyssinia or Sennar. Now, what is Abyssinia? I should have included it in this video, but I'll do it right now for you guys. Abyssinia is another way of saying Ethiopia. Right? Let's prove that for you guys real fast. Pull this up. Bear with me 1 second. Yeah, Abyssinia is just another way of saying Ethiopia. Okay? Let's prove that here. Boom. Okay, you see that? Abyssinia. This is quick Google. It says, Abyssinia, Ethiopian Empire. The Ethiopian Empire, also formerly known by the exonym Abyssinia, or simply known as Ethiopia, was a sovereign state that historically encompasses the geographical area of present-day Ethiopia. So going back to what this guy said, the father of Egyptology, right? He says the first tribes who populated Egypt, that is to say the valley of the Nile between the cataract of Aswan and the sea, came from Abyssinia or Sennar. But it is impossible to fix the time of this first migration, which is extremely ancient. The ancient Egyptians belong to a race of men quite similar to Kenis or Barbarous, current inhabitants of Nubia. So he's letting you know that the ancient Egyptians looked just like the Nubians, right? Let me get that. The ancient Egyptians belong to a race of men quite similar to the Kenis or Barbarous, current inhabitants of Nubia, right? Now, let me pull up what Nubians look like. All right, even though most of you already know, but I'm going to pull it up just for the human eye. All right, to have an image. So let's do that. 1 second. Nubians. right? Pull up Nubians. For those of you who don't know, that's talking about Sudanese, right? Which, by the way, coincidentally, Sudanese people are the darkest complected people on the planet Earth, literally. But anyway, so as you can see, Nubians are Nilo-Saharan speaking ethnic group indigenous to the region, which is now northern Sudan and southern Egypt. Nubians, these are your Nubians right here. Boom. All right. So going back, this is what he said. The ancient Egyptians belonged to a race of men quite similar to the Kenis or Barbars, current inhabitants of Nubia. We do not find among the Copts or Egypt any characteristic features of the ancient Egyptian population. So he's basically letting you know that the modern inhabitants do not look anything like the ancient Egyptian population. He's going to tell you why. He says the Copts are the result of the confused mixture of all the nations which successfully dominated Egypt. It is wrong to want to find among them the main traits of the old race, just like in modern day, back right in 2024. It's the same reason. They're like, oh, look, we should look for the modern day inhabitants traits, and those guys look like the ancient Egyptians, which is simply not true, right? Ancient Egypt has been conquered by multiple people: the Greeks, the Romans, right? The Muslims, right? Specifically in modern day, these Ishmaelites that are there, I say this all the time. Egypt was conquered by the Muslims in 640 A.D. You can look that up, right? So anyway, that being said, so he tells you straight up off the rip. Once again, this is Jean-Francois Champollion. In his letter, he says that the first tribes of Egypt came from Ethiopia, which is Abyssinia. Then he said they look like modern day Nubians, or he said the ancient Egyptians belong to a race like the Nubians. And he said that the modern inhabitants do not look like the ancient race, right? So let's show you some pharaohs to give even more evidence. Let's go into the pharaohs to get even more evidence on this subject. Because if you ask Google, you say, were the Egyptians black? It says the claim that all Egyptians or even all the pharaohs were black is not valid. And that is correct. Because like I told you, they were conquered by the Greeks, the Romans, and the Muslims, right? But then here comes the lie. Most scholars believe that the Egyptians in antiquity look pretty much as they look today. Wrong. With the graduation of dark shades toward the Sudan. Yeah, most scholars, because they're all confederate with an agreement. But we'll get into that in a minute. But then they try to tell you, oh, the only black pharaohs were the Kushite rulers of the 25th dynasty. By the way, Kushites, that would be from Ethiopia again. And he said the modern inhabitant, or he said the ancient Egyptians look like the Ethiopians. They try to say it was only in the 25th dynasty. But nonetheless, you'll see things like this where they say, look, see, we always look like this. This is what the ancient Egyptians look like. But they're hiding something because all the pharaohs and whatnot do not look like this, right? Let's do this like I always do it. So this is Narmer. This is Pharaoh Narmer, the first pharaoh, right? From the first dynasty, right? This is what Pharaoh Narmer looks like, right? Flat nose, the lips, right? Here's Pharaoh Narmer. Here's a picture of Mike Tyson, right? Identical, but it gets more. All right, we're going to go to the second dynasty. This is Pharaoh Ninetjer. Pharaoh Ninetjer of the second dynasty. As you can see already, this is clearly a so-called black man. Look at the features, right? This is a picture of the rapper KRS-One, and this is Ninetjer, right? Identical, right? Identical, right? And this is a picture of Ninetjer, and this is the Hamar tribe of Ethiopia. They have the exact same hairstyle and the same nose, for that matter, right? And this is what's known as so-called Negroid features, which this person is clearly lacking, right? This is what's known as Negroid features. Flattish nose, flat root of the nose, narrower ears, narrower joints, right? They're called so-called Negroid features, right? As you can see, even though really, when you study phenotypes, you can actually find every phenotype in Africa when it comes to bone-wise, when it comes to brow ridge, when it comes to nose, right? I might do a video of that on another time. But anyway, here's Pharaoh Khufu of the 4th dynasty. Again, Negroid features. Flat nose, the lips. Pharaoh Khufu, 4th dynasty. This is Men Kaurer, 4th dynasty. Once again, he has the same hairstyle as the Hamar Ethiopian women. Look at this. Boom, boom. Right? Real simple. Same nose too. Right? Then you got Pharaoh Nefer Frey of the 5th dynasty. He has waves in his hair. He literally has waves in hair in his hair, like it tells you in Ecclesiastes, man. There's no new thing under the sun. That's true. Then you got Nayusur-Eni, the 5th dynasty. Once again, he's got the KR. He's rocking the KRS-One nose, right? Then you got Pepi, Pharaoh the 1st of the 6th dynasty, right? He's got the spirals in his hair like this guy to show the peppercorn hair, right? Because he was a so-called black man, right? So this idea that they all look like this is incorrect. And like I said, man, the father of Egyptology said it himself. I'm going to get it again. The first tribes that populated Egypt came from Abyssinia, right? The ancient Egyptians belonged to a race of men, like the current inhabitants of Nubia. Simple, simple, right? And what was this guy called? He was called the father of Egyptology. Let me highlight that. He was called the father of Egyptology. See that? Real simple. Now let's continue on. This is what I wrote down. You see, they don't want you to know that the ancient Egyptians were black. Because if you knew that the ancient Egyptians were black, that would mean that the ancient Israelites were black also. Because all throughout the whole Bible, the Israelites are mistaken for Egyptians. I'll prove it, which is all true, right? Because if you find out that the ancient Egyptians are black, then you would know that the Israelites are black, right? For me, myself, I'm not an ancient Egyptian. I'm an Israelite. But they have to say that the modern Egyptians look like the ancient Egyptians, so they can then say, oh, that's what the modern Israelites had to have looked like too, which is not the case. But anyway, so I said that the Israelites are mistaken from Egyptians in the Bible. That is true. Mistaken identity happens in the Bible multiple times. Like when we look at Moses, for example, right? Let's go to Exodus chapter 2 and verse 10, right? And the child grew, and she brought him onto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called his name Moses, and she said, because I drew him out of the water. So Moses was adopted by an Egyptian woman, and he was blended in and raised into Egyptian society. Everyone just thought he was an Egyptian. Nobody said anything, which automatically tells you they looked similar, right? Then we go to Exodus 2 and 15. Check this out. It says, now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flocks. So Moses is helping these 7 daughters of the Midianites, of a Midianite man. Check this out, verse 2, Exodus 2 and 18. And when they came to Reuel their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, this is important, and they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. So they just thought that Moses was another Egyptian, meaning he had the same skin color as an Egyptian, and he obviously was wearing Egyptian apparel. And that tells you right there that Moses was a so-called black man. And let's get another example of him getting mistaken for Egyptians. Joseph, another Hebrew, right? When we go to Joseph, we're going to read Genesis 42 and 3 all the way to 8, which reads, and Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother Jacob, sent not with his brethren, for he said, lest peradventure mischief befall him. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, whence come ye? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. So, backstory is they sold Joseph into slavery when he was a kid. Joseph grows up among the Egyptians. When they get older and the famine hits, they come to the land, and Joseph has become the overlord of that land, right? Second to the Pharaoh, actually. Second to only the Pharaoh. And they just thought that Joseph, their brother, was just another Egyptian. They didn't even know it was their brother Joseph. Then it tells you that specifically in Genesis 42 and 8, where it says, and Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him. Other versions. So Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. So they just thought that Joseph was another Egyptian. All right? And we already proved who the ancient Egyptians were. That means Joseph was a so-called black man. And then there's one other instance, which is of the Apostle Paul. in Acts 21 and 38, found in the New Testament, where it says, Acts 21:37. And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Canst thou speak Greek? He says, Art not thou that Egyptian, which before these days made us an uproar and led us out into the wilderness, 4,000 men that were murderers? But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people. So this guy thought that Paul was just another Egyptian. He corrected him. No, I'm not an Egyptian. I am a man which am a Jew. He tells him I'm a Jew. And that's because the apostles were so-called black people as well. Now, let's go to this as well. Let me get rid of this. Right? You see, it was even written down in the Bible that these nations, i.e., quote, aka other races, because nation just means a nationality, which you go to the, matter of fact, let me just pull it up for the guys, right? Let me just do it. Give me 1 second. Etymology, nation, just to prove exactly what I'm saying. Nation is just another word for the word race. Let's pull that up on the etymology, which means origin of the word. Right? So let's go to that. Boom. Come on, computer, don't freeze on me now. Boom. Let's go to this. Let's prove that nation just means race. This is etymology, 1300, nation, a race of people, large group of people with common ancestry and language. Species, race of people, tribe, literally, right? That which has been born. All right. So going back to what I said, you see it was even written down in the Bible that these nations, i.e. the other races, would try to erase our Israelite history from existence. And they all joined together in this conspiracy to omit us. And this is a fact, right? Let's go into the scripture. Psalms chapter 83. Psalms chapter 83, we're going to read 1 through 8. But 4 and 5 are the important parts. So it reads, a song or psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. So they don't want you to remember that you're an Israelite. They don't want the Israelites to be remembered, the real original Israelites to be remembered. That's why they have to make the Egyptians look how they look today. That's why they have to make the Hebrews look how they look today, how they try to make the quote-unquote Israelites look today, right? It's all to make you not know that you are really of God's chosen people. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. So they're all clicked up. They're all in agreement. They're all conspiring together, right? The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gabal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot Salah. So rather it's dealing with the so-called white man, right? The so-called Arabic man, the Asian man, right? So on and so forth. It says, for they have consulted together with one consent, they are confederate against thee. Mind you, Edom, Ishmaelites, all these are nations of people. These are national groups, right? Let's go to other versions. This is the BSB of Psalms 83 and 4, saying, come, let us erase them as a nation. May the name of Israel be remembered no more. They want to erase us from history, as a nation. For with one mind they plot together, they form an alliance against you. The Edomites, the Ishmaelites, so on and so forth. You go to Psalms 83 and 4, other versions. Come, let us erase them as a nation. May the name of Israel be remembered no more. Let's wipe out the nation of Israel, make sure that no one remembers its name. Come, they say, let us destroy their nation so that Israel will be forgotten forever. You go to Psalms 83 and 5. With one mind they plot together, they form an alliance against you. Yes, this was their unanimous decision. They signed a treaty as allies against you, for they conspire with one accord against you. They make a covenant, for with one mind they plot together. They form an alliance against you. They conspire together. That's why I told you guys, it's a conspiracy against God's chosen people, literally, right? Believe it or not. And I already know somebody's going to be like, well, I'm from I'm from here, and we don't believe that. We know you guys are. I'm talking about the elites, right? When I say the elites, I'm talking about your top 1 through 10%. Most of them, they already know we the Israelites, man. And their job is to make sure that you don't know, right? So they perpetuate a lie. Rather, it's historical inaccuracies, right? Where they try to act like, oh, the ancient Egyptians were this super multi-ethnic group, and they already know. They already know that the ancient Egyptians look like Ethiopians. They look like Nubians. They already know that, right? I showed you the father of Egyptology who said that, right? But guess what? It was our destiny to remember ourselves, man. That's in Baruch chapter 2, verse 30. But we're going to read 27 to 30. O Lord, our God, thou hast dealt with us after all thy goodness and according to all that great mercy of thine, as thou spakest by thy servant Moses in the day when thou didst command him to write the law before the children of Israel, saying, if you will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations where I will scatter them. Yeah, we're scattered everywhere. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves. And our people are waking up all throughout the world. I've seen our people waking up in the Philippines. I've seen our people waking up in India, Americas, the islands, the Caribbean islands, South America. So our people are waking up. For I knew that they would not hear me because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves, and shall know that I am the Lord Yahawah their God. For I will give them an heart and ears to hear, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity, and think upon my name. We're doing that now. Call on Yahawah Bashim Yahawashi, right? And return from their stiff neck and from their wicked deeds, for they shall remember the way of their fathers, which sinned before the Lord. Right? So we were prophesied. It was our destiny to remember ourselves. Now, before I get out of here, I want to show you guys what Jean-Francois Champollion's brother had to say as well, because he didn't agree with his brother, but he's going to say something very interesting, which is going to say that everyone thought that the ancient Egyptians were black in the ancient world, right? So this is Jacques Joseph Champollion Figeac. He was an archaeologist, right? And he was the brother of Jean-Francois Champollion, right? This is what he had to say in his thing, Champollion Figeac, from his memoir in a letter to his brother. This is what he had to say. He says, the opinion that the ancient population of Egypt belonged to the Negro African race is an error long accepted as the truth. So he doesn't agree with it, but he says it was long accepted as the truth. He says, since the Renaissance, travelers in the East, barely capable of fully appreciating the ideas provided by Egyptian monuments on this important question, have helped to spread this false notion of geographers have not failed to reproduce it, even in our day. Right? So, he's saying that since the Renaissance, people have perpetuated the fact that the ancient Egyptians were of a so-called Negro African race. And he doesn't agree with it, but he reveals that since the Renaissance, they believed that. So that tells you right there that everyone believed the Egyptians were black until recently, right? Now all of a sudden they look like the Arabs. Now all of a sudden it's multi-ethnic, right? Yeah, it's only multi-ethnic in the sense that Egypt was conquered by non-Egyptians several times, right? But you know, I just wanted to show you guys that as well. I thought that was funny. So anyways, with that, once again, I say peace to the 12. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father, the Most High, whose name is Yahawah, in the name of His only begotten Son, whose name is Yahawashi. Yahawah is the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world commonly calls God, and Yahawashi is the Savior of the nation of Israel, who the world commonly calls Jesus Christ. I want to say Shalom, which means peace. To you people that are out there listening and learning, you brothers doing this work, true sincerity, and to you elders who are doing this thing before me, I'm get up on out of here. I'm gone. Shalom, peace.